Properties of cardiac muscles. So the important properties of cardiac muscles are automaticity, rhythmicity, conductivity, contractility, excitability, distensibility, long refractory period. Because of that long refractory period, cardiac muscles cannot be tetanized. This is really, really important. The other properties are extra systole and compensatory pause, all or none law, staircase phenomenon, length tension relationship, frequency force relationship, load velocity relationship. Now come to the automaticity. It is the ability of cardiac muscles to contract regularly even in absence of its nerve supply, which is referred as automaticity. This is possible due to the spontaneous generation of impulses by the SA node, which is called as primary pacemaker of the heart. The other structures are AV node, is Purkinje's system, also responsible for generation of impulses. Now come to the automaticity. So basically, heart doesn't require any kind of nervous tissue for stimulation. It has its own uh, conductive pathway in which there are specialized structures, SA node, AV node, bundle of his Purkinje system. This specialized conductive uh, pathway is responsible for generation of impulses. Mainly SA node dominate these structures, so that's why it is called primary pacemaker. Impulses could also be generated from these structures, but mainly SA node is responsible for that. Rhythmicity. In this property, a normal heart beats in a perfectly regular rhythm as the intervals remain constant. So between the intervals between the heartbeats always remains constant. So there is a regular rhythm between heartbeats. This occurs due to regularity in rhythmic discharge of SA node. From SA node, impulses are generating continuously and they have also rhythm. They are in rhythmics. That's why these heartbeats are also in a specific rhythm. Now come to the SA node, which is the primary pacemaker of the heart, and the rate of discharge of SA node it is around 60 to 100 per minute. Therefore, the heart rate is similar, which is 60 to 100 beats per minute. The duration of interbeat intervals is remain constant. That's why there is a rhythmicity between contractions of heart. Now, the property of contractility. Cardiac muscles contract in response to a stimulus. Ventricular contraction enables heart to pump blood into the circulation. Increased contractility increases cardiac output, and decreased contractility decreases cardiac output. So basically, cardiac muscles have a property of contraction mm, by the stimulus generated by the SA node. By the influence of this stimulus, ventricular contraction is responsible for the pumping of blood into the circulation. And increased contractility increases cardiac output, and decreased contractility decreases cardiac output. Cardiac output basically it is the volume of blood pumped out per ventricle per minute. Now come to the conductivity. The cardiac muscles conduct impulses generated in the heart. Impulse produced in SA node is conducted by specialized conductive pathway. SA node, AV node, bundle of his right and left bundle branches, and Purkinje fibers. So this specialized pathway is responsible for the conduction of impulses. So conductivity is a property of cardiac muscles. Excitability. Cardiac muscles is an excitable tissue like nerve and other muscle cells. Stimulus generated by the SA node. In response to that stimulus generated by SA node, cardiac muscles contract. Just because of that property, excitability, cardiac muscles get excited against that stimulus and show the contraction. Now come to the property of distensibility. So distensibility is a ability to stretch, especially in case of ventricular diastole, when ventricles are filled by the blood which is coming from the atria, the walls of the ventricles get stretched. This property is called distensibility. This property helps in filling of atria and ventricular chambers. Long refractory period. It is very important. Refractory period of the muscle is a period during which muscle doesn't evoke a response no matter how strong is the stimulus. So when stimulus comes, cardiac action potential generated, and due to this, cardiac muscles contract. After that, there is a refractory period in which muscle is getting ready for the next stimulus. So in this refractory period, how much strong stimulus we are giving, the response will not be occur. The refractory period of the heart muscle is interval of time during which a normal cardiac impulse cannot re-excite an already excited area of the cardiac muscle. The refractory period could be divided into absolute and relative refractory period. In cardiac muscles, the duration of action potential is almost same as the duration of its mechanical response. Therefore, refractory period extends to most part of the mechanical response. Under the influence of impulse transmitted from SA node, generation of cardiac action potential is responsible for the contraction. So contraction is the mechanical response. And this mechanical uh, response, it is almost similar to the refractory period of that uh, action potential, which is called cardiac action potential generated against the impulse from the SA node. Therefore, new action potential always generate a fresh mechanical response. For fresh mechanical response, there is always requirement of fresh action potential. Consequently, a fresh contraction cannot occur before completion of the previous mechanical response. So one cardiac action potential will generate one mechanical response. If in between the refractory period, if next stimulus is given, next cardiac action potential cannot be generated till the completion of refractory period. This mechanical response of ventricular muscle cannot be merged and cardiac muscles cannot be tetanized. In skeletal muscles, mechanical responses can be merged and muscles can be tetanized as the duration of action potential is much shorter than the duration of mechanical contraction. In cardiac muscles, the refractory period is almost similar to mechanical response, but the duration of mechanical response. But in case of skeletal muscles, the duration of action potential is much shorter than the duration of the mechanical contraction. Now come to the long refractory period in cardiac muscles has three basic advantages. Summation of contraction doesn't occur, fatigue doesn't occur, and the tetanus doesn't occur, which is the prolonged contraction of muscle fiber. In this image, we can see that there is a there is a generation of action potential, and this is representing the mechanical response of muscle. In this case, these mechanical responses got added up, this which is called summation. And if frequently action potential is generating, and finally here all these mechanical responses got summed up, and there is a condition of tetanus, which is a property of skeletal muscles. There is no summation. Two action potentials are generating two mechanical responses. In this case, these two mechanical responses got summed up, got added up, which is summation. And in this case, multiple responses got added up, and finally there is a condition of tetanus, which is a property of skeletal muscles. This property is not uh, shown by the cardiac muscles. In this image, we can see that this is the action potential, absolutely refractory period, and the relative refractory period. This red graph is showing the cardiac action potential. This green graph is showing the mechanical response. The absolute refractory period, it is almost covering the that major portion of that mechanical response. We can divide this refractory period into two parts, the absolute and relative. In absolute refractory period, there is no chance of generation of any kind of uh, mechanical response if stimulus is given. In relative refractory period, it is possible that new impulse could generate cardiac action potential and mechanical response could be shown. This graph is showing the relationship between electrical and mechanical responses in skeletal muscles. Here we can see this red graph is showing the action potential, and this green graph is showing the mechanical response. So this refractory period of skeletal muscles, it is not extended to that part. It is covering only a small part of this green graph, which is the mechanical response. So in case of cardiac muscles, we have a long refractory period. Now come to the all or none law. The all or none law states that magnitude of response of a tissue to stimuli remains same, irrespective of strength of stimuli. That means if the tissue responds, it responds optimally or it doesn't respond at all. When the stimulus is of subthreshold strength, the muscle doesn't respond to it at all. The threshold intensity or supra threshold intensity can generate the response. Either muscle will respond optimally or it will not respond at all. So we can say that if stimulus is of threshold intensity or supra threshold intensity can generate the response. Subthreshold strength of stimuli cannot generate any kind of impulse. So the muscle does not respond at all. This is called the all or none phenomena. In this image, we can see that here is the stimulus is the weakest. There is no response. In this case, stimuli, the strength of stimuli is increasing. The strength of stimuli is increasing, but the mechanical responses or the action potentials have an equal height. They all have a same amplitude. So threshold, the threshold level of intensity or supra threshold level of intensity will generate same amplitude. But in case of weakest or sub threshold level of intensity will not generate any kind of action potential. That is called the all or none law.